When I go to Sacramento, I will pump up Sacramento.
Some say the news is fake. Others say it's real. These two don't have the time to check. Instead, Turner Sparks and Michael Ira Kaplan turn to comics stationed around the globe to be their eyewitness reporters so that you can know what's really going on. This is Lost in America.
All right, everybody, welcome to Lost in America, episode 222. Is that right, Kaplan?
I didn't check, but we'll go with it. 222.
My name's Turner Sparks.
I am Mordechai Yitzchak Kaplan.
Oh, he's Mordechai for today.
I'm going double Hebrew
today. You can find me at turnersparks.com. You can find Kaplan at Cap in America on Instagram. This show is at Lost in America Pod. On the show today, we have Benji Lovitt coming to us all the way from Israel. Kaplan, we're talking about the elections. There's been a multitude, is that the right word, of elections in Israel over the past couple years. And we're going to get into that in just a minute. But before we have him on, before we bring him in, Kaplan, this show's been going Patreon. Let's start with Patreon. We got a big shout out. We got a new Patreon subscriber this week, Charles Sutherland. New Patreon subscriber. Shout out to Charles. And listen, he's coming in with the right attitude, Kaplan, because we told people the kind of audience we want. You know, we're specific with our audience. We won't take just anybody listening to this show.
Some people say why don't you have more Patreons? This is why. We don't just take anybody. We put you through we try you out, see if we like you.
It's like joining a podcast frat.
Exactly.
We have to rush you. Yeah, we have to do a lot of things. So anyway, he wrote
exclusive.
When we let him join, yes, he sent us a big letter, and I'm not going to read all of it because the whole thing's fantastic, saying how he got into the show, how he found out about it. Shout out to Andrew Heaton. He found out about the Andrew Heaton's podcast. Right. But he also said, no doubt, all the reasons why he wanted to join. He said, no doubt, being a blowhard at a party will be a valuable thing once parties are allowed to exist again. And then he quotes himself saying, well, actually, my good friend on the ground in Peru has let me in on all the inside details of the constitutional crisis. And you see, ... So that's what he has to look forward to by listening to this podcast.
Charles is a genius, because we always tell people you listen to this podcast and you go to a cocktail party and you blow hard away. But we always said, say you're listening to I heard this on a podcast, right? You kind of sound like a douche, I realize, when you say it that way.
Everybody listens to podcasts these days.
Yeah, you say my friend in Peru. You adopt I think it's okay if we volunteer all of our guests. They're signing up for it. They're your friends now.
Yes.
So if you say my friend in Peru, my friend in Chile, my friend in Israel, if you just start dropping friends from all around, it makes you seem so sophisticated.
And no one's going to double check.
Yeah. It's not like Hilaria Baldwin where anyone's going to call you on this.
not happening. No, they're not going to ask you to call them on the phone and see if they're doing the accent.
We should book her for the Spain episode. That's another topic, but yes. Yeah, exactly.
Shout out to Charles. Anyway, the way you can become a Patreon subscriber, go to Lost in America go to patreon.com/Lost in America, patreon.com/Lost in America. For $5 a month, you get this show. Well, you get this show for free, but for $5 a month, you get Kaplan and I 3 extra times a week. So we're your morning radio show now. No, you don't have to listen to the morning zoo anymore. You get us in your car on the way to work. 3 extra times a week for $10 a month. You get a Lost in America #1 in Armenia t-shirt. Because if this is your first time listening, yes, we did go to #1 in Armenia a couple months ago. And yes, we did design t-shirts and now sell them as a commemorative token article, merchandise. That's the word for that. Much like when Michael Jordan, the Bulls would win championships, they print hats. We print t-shirts when we go to #1 in countries.
Yeah, and we've gone, much like Michael Jordan, we've gone to multiple #1s. So thank you to all the fans. And hopefully this week we're going to go to #1 in Israel, because that was a dream of mine when I was a little boy growing up in Hebrew school. So let's see.
#1 in Israel. Here we come. Speaking of that, Kaplan, all right, I'm going to tell you what I know about this topic. Here's the deal. Benjamin, or possibly Benjamin Netanyahu, is the prime minister of Israel. So far, so good.
Yes,
I think. There have been 4 elections for the prime minister in the last 2 years. The last one was 9 months ago, And he and this guy Gantz decided they tied. So they're like, let's just split it and we'll each be prime minister.
We'll take turns.
What's that? Yeah, we'll take turns.
You go first, I'll go second.
And that was 9 months ago. But now what happened is the government collapsed.
Yes.
And now that deal's off.
That's why you never want to go second. If you're going to be splitting prime minister with anybody, or really splitting anything with anybody, like you get this pizza, I'll get the one later. You want to get first. You want to eat the first half of the pizza. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
You want to drive the rental car for the first half of the trip. So if you crash it, someone else has to deal with it next.
Yeah.
That's literally all I know. Sticking to this specific topic. Cap, what about you?
And I should say you learned while you're doing your research, you didn't know that Bibi and Netanyahu were the same person. You learned that.
That was a whole day of confusion. Yes.
You were asking me questions about these two different people.
I was like 11 hours into studying this. And I was like, Kaplan, who is Bibi?
Yeah.
And he's like, that's Netanyahu. I'm like, who's Netanyahu? He's like, that's Bibi. So
yeah,
I'm way lost.
I'm a little more, I know Israel a little more. And I would say what my bullet point is, for like the first 30 years of Israel's existence, I think it was just like a socialist country run by the Labor Party. It was simple. One party was always in charge. But since my lifetime, as like an adult, it's been like almost always, even though every Jew I know in America is liberal, it's been very right of center for most of my adulthood. And Netanyahu's been in charge he was in charge in the 90s for a few years. And now he's been in charge for the last 10 years. It seems like he's going to be in charge forever. So, and then the other thing I always say, it's a blowhard tip that I give everyone. I want them to come out of this episode with is whenever you complain about the American system,
yes,
electoral college, anything you want to say, I always say parliaments are a mess. They're worse. And Israel's the number one example because it's just it's a shit show when you have all these different parties and everything.
All right, well, let's find out. Let's find out. So as we bring it, I want to give Benji a proper introduction here. Benji Lovett, he's a comedian based in Israel. He moved to Israel in 2006. He has been featured in the USA Today. Have you heard of it, Kaplan?
I've heard
Time Magazine. You heard of that?
Ooh,
BBC Radio, The Atlantic, maybe the Pacific, multiple oceans around the world. Oh, the Atlantic and the Atlantic Magazine.
That's a magazine, yes.
The Times of Israel.
BB is Netanyahu.
He's toured with Jim Gaffigan, with Ilan Gold, who
friend of mine.
We got to get both of them on this show at some point. He during 2014. Wait, let's see. He did something else with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. All right, let's bring him in. Benji Lovett, welcome to the show.
Shalom.
Thank you. This is great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for doing it.
Thank you for doing it, man.
Wait, hold on. You're telling me Bibi and Netanyahu are the same person? I had no idea. I spent 14 years. I had no idea.
Get Ilan Gold on the phone, Kaplan. We found the wrong guest.
Yeah.
So what's going on? What did I get right out of that? Have there been 4 elections in 2 years?
There will have been 4. Our 4th election is on March 23rd. 4 elections in 2 years. Yeah. Please don't remind us. It's very painful.
Okay. So what's normal? Is it 1 every 3?
Yeah.
Well, we never get that. I think a full term is supposed to be 4 years. That never happens.
Okay. Why?
Because it's funny. We do the opposite. Like you were saying, like everything went like everything, people think the American system is messed up. Well, look at Israel. So this is the first time we're like, we think this country's messed up. Look what's going on in the States. Like it gives us perspective.
Yes. Oh, and we should say, by the way, you're from Texas originally.
Yeah, I'm American.
For a long time. So the accent. Okay, there we go. Now we're caught up. This isn't a fake American accent you're doing.
Yeah, I sound. This is how I talk. Yeah, I sound very Texan. My parents are from the Bronx. That's why I'm a Jew.
Give me that Israeli. Move your hands a little more. I want to see a little.
What's the problem?
So what's happened in the last 2 years? Why have there been so many elections?
So, like I said these guys beforehand, like when you want to know about politics, definitely talk to a comedian. I didn't prepare for this. But I feel like the Jewish guilt and the pressure to explain it articulately. So here's the thing. So it is a parliamentary system. So when there's an election, you don't vote for, in America, it's this candidate or that candidate.
Yes.
Here, you're not voting directly for the prime minister. You're voting for the party. And everything. This is all presumably how it's supposed to work. Is that every party has like their list of parliament members. Like if this party gets this many seats, like this guy's number one. Like imagine if the Democratic Party had like their 20 senators like ranked.
Yeah.
So if when the election happens that you vote for whatever party you want to vote for, they count up all the votes. And you have to get a minimum number of votes to cross like the threshold to be allowed to be entered into parliament.
Okay.
I think it's 4% now.
4%. Okay.
We'll call it 3. That was close enough.
There we go. Don't ask him details, Kaplan. We're sticking with broad
Otherwise,
generalizations.
people understand what it means. Yeah.
So the votes are divided up by, if let's say one party got 50% of the votes, never happened, but they would then get like 50% of the parliament seats.
Okay.
So there are 120 seats in the parliament. It's called the Knesset. That's the name of the parliament. So you have to get 61 to win, to rule. So let's say, the Likud, Netanyahu's party, typically for the last several elections, they will get the most seats. They will get a plurality, not a majority. They'll get like 30, 35. So basically, you want to come back the next day and say, BB won or this person won. That's only the beginning, right? Once we find out the next day which party got how many seats, that's only the beginning of the process. Because then typically whichever party gets the most votes gets the first crack at forming a coalition.
Yeah, you
So
got to
like
wheel and
90
deal.
days. Yeah, so they have to go to all the different parties and say, I'll give you this if you give me that and this and that. So in the last few elections, no one can get a majority. No one can form a coalition, let's say. So I'm losing track. So basically, for the last several elections, for the last 3, and the ones preceding that, the big plot that the opposition has been, we're not Netanyahu. Vote for us because we're like the Democrats were like anyone but Trump.
Yes,
never Trump.
Here
never
it's like
Netanyahu.
here it's like anyone but Bibi. So in the last 3 elections, it's been this former general. Was he? I think he was the chief of the Joint Chief of Staffs. He was like the is that what you call it in English? The senior general,
like the head of the army,
military figure. His name is Benny Gantz.
Okay.
And no political background at all. Once upon a time, I guess also in America, like Eisenhower was a general. Once upon a time, it was thought that if you had a military background, that
George Washington.
We used to do it all the time until Eisenhower. George Washington. Yeah, we had a.
So there was, so those guys had credibility. So Gantz, despite not being in politics, said, "I'm a man of morals, and I just want what's best for the country, and I'm not Netanyahu." And he said, I forget what happened in each election, but there was no conclusive victor. So after the last election, the third one, I don't know if this is too much detail, not enough.
No, this is great. This is perfect.
Good. After the last one, Gantz said his big promise was, I will not join his coalition. I will not sit with Netanyahu. And then what happened? I don't know if you guys heard, there's a global pandemic right now. Did that make it to the States? Have you heard about that?
We conquered it. We had great leadership and we don't have it here. So yeah.
Wow. Fantastic.
We just went away. Invisible enemy gone.
We defeated it.
Yep.
Never mind the hospitals. They're
writing articles in China about what a great job we did and how we're back to normal.
So do you have the 5G inside you, or how does that work?
Yeah.
We haven't gotten it yet over here.
So there was a pandemic.
Yeah, I forgot to have fun. I was so busy talking about awful politics. So basically, Gantz said, I'm breaking my promise. He said these are extenuating circumstances. The country is in dire straits. The economy is crashing. These are not normal times. So I'm going to sit in a coalition with him. And the agreement was that Netanyahu would serve first, and there'd be a rotation, and then Gantz would take over. First of all, so a lot of people said there's no way Netanyahu's going to keep his word. He's going to find some way to get out of it. And second of all, what I didn't even mention is that Netanyahu was indicted for
we forgot to bring that up
bribery and graft. Have you ever been accused of graft? I don't think I've ever used that in a sentence before.
What is graft? I don't even know what that means.
I don't know. It's bad stuff. So, Netanyahu is I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself. He's brilliant. He has been Trump-like in ways. He's been divisive more and more in recent years. He attacks the media, but the guy's smart. He's done great things for this country. He was at one time, I guess, a decent, legitimate politician, but people are like, enough is enough. We need term limitations. He's out, for himself, and he wants to be in power so he doesn't go to jail or whatever. So, whatever. So I'm gonna stop now and
there's
drink
no
myself
term limits though, right? In a parliament, you can't have a term limit. Like it's just because.
Well, there's no term limitations in this country. There's no rules saying you can only serve this many years.
Yeah, that's
so okay. My first question is, if would Gantz and Netanyahu's parties, they would be, no one's getting the majority, but they're getting the most of the plurality. Is that they're getting the highest?
So the Likud got basically the Likud and Gantz's party. Well, by the way, Gantz's career is finished. He's not even going to get
his party was the blue and white.
Right? I have a million questions on that. Let's start with so they got the two most. Because how many parties run in a parliamentary election?
A lot. I don't know. Let's say there's at least 10 legitimate ones.
Okay. Wow. So some people might get like 8 seats, 11 seats, 30, 12.
Yeah, so the thing is, so in America, it's like, I mean, who are these people who like are undecided the day of the election? It's absurd. But here, you know, there's a lot of strategic voting. I guess if there's a third party in the States, you're like, well, do I want to vote for them? Is it throwing my vote away?
Yeah.
So here it's like, you're not necessarily voting, do I want to vote for the party who speaks to me the most? Or do I want to say like, I want to get Bibi out of here, so I'm going to vote for, or you're not, it's not even as important to vote for your party as much like the bloc. Like you might vote for like the left-wing block.
And do they make those blocks in advance of the election or after?
Well, everyone knows, like, it's like, like pretend that Elizabeth Warren and Bernie are like the very left wingers and Biden's the moderate, so it's like,
right.
You can kind of tell
ideological.
You can tell kind of where it's going. Okay.
But it's even more confusing here because you have like the security issues, the economic issues, and the religious issues. So you might have like this left-wing, I don't know, this party aligning with this right-wing party because they have similar beliefs on one thing.
Well, that's
anyway.
I was going to ask about that because what I was looking up, they said sometimes like there's a far left-wing party that's going to form a block with a far right-wing because they're both they just want to get Netanyahu out. But it almost seems like that would cause upheaval in America if like AOC, Ocasio-Cortez ran a party and then she just after the election just formed a coalition with like Ted Cruz.
Did you dumb down AOC for me or for the listeners?
For myself. That was for me. Ocasio-Cortez. Yeah. Well, she says you can only call her AOC if you know her, I think.
All right.
So that was why I was doing that for her, actually.
He respects.
But that would cause both of those supporters, the Cruz supporters in Texas and the AOC supporters in the Bronx, to like have a conniption fit that the person they voted for that they're like now joining with the other side. That doesn't happen in Israel? Or they're just
it's like, it's like so the ultra-Orthodox Jews are all vote together as a block. They're like one issue voters. They don't care about like this. They just care about like their religion. So it's not really right wing. I mean, they usually align with the right wing parties, but they'll sort of align with anyone who lets them be in the. Everybody wants to court them because they have so much power. But
and isn't it like they question from? No, I'm sorry. They'll give them like something to say over like marriage, right? Or it's something like that. Like because I know my brother got married in like America because he couldn't get married in Israel because it wasn't going to be recognized. It wasn't religious.
This is a whole other thing. Yeah, there's no separation between church and state here. Yeah. So the
So that's an example. Go on.
Yeah, I mean it's like in any country. Like I guess I don't know what the equivalent is in America, but like you have to really, I mean, I guess with like gay marriage or anything, like, unfortunately, progress has to be incremental because it's all about politics and you can't just follow your heart. You have to like make alliances and whatever. So you were asking, let's say the Gantz's party, blue and white, and Netanyahu's party, Likud, both got like 35 seats last time.
Yeah.
And what was your question?
Well, then they could join together and form and win, right? They could join if you had 35 and 35, that would be 70.
Right, but Gantz was like the opposition. He was like everyone who voted for him was against Netanyahu.
So in the past, in the last three, the first two, I guess, would Netanyahu just then form a coalition with other people? Or how did they even decide?
He couldn't do it. He didn't because I mean, for the first, like you were saying, for the first, decades, the Socialist Party was ruling. Like the Labor Party is like the classic socialist, left wing.
Kibbutzes and everything. Israel.
Yeah, so like Yitzhak Rabin was the prime minister who was assassinated in the 90s. That was his party. They used to get like 40 seats. They're probably not going to even make the parliament this time. Like they've been reduced to nothing.
And that's like what we would say is left wing in America.
It's like the mainstream left wing party, right? It's
okay.
Like
for a number of reasons. There are still left wingers here, but like their leadership sucks, and
Yeah. So everything's center to the right. So
well, the party. I mean, there's been a lot of articles written saying dissenting things. I mean, the government for the last 20 years has been right wing. But most Israelis are not right wing. I mean, Tel Aviv is millions of people who are. This is as liberal city as you'll find. Most of the country is probably center, but for a variety of reasons, the right keeps winning.
So how does
Netanyahu keeps winning?
That is interesting though, because like in America, even if it's hard to say, it's in most places, it's hard to maintain popularity for more than 8 years, 10 years. You're going to do something that's going to get you out unless you're a dictator. But Netanyahu's not a dictator. He has to get elected. His team.
Well, it's funny if you ask people who, if you ask real Israelis, I mean, I'm an immigrant. Like a lot of people say like, he's acting dictatorial now. I mean,
okay.
So, I think Trump is 100 times worse, but Trump is acting like a dictator, I think. I mean, in America, it's a democracy,
right.
But
he just doesn't have the power to do anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most Israelis don't like Bibi, but he is the one who there's the devil versus the devil you don't know. And we haven't even mentioned that we live in the Middle East, surrounded by like Hezbollah, Hamas, Iran who's developing nuclear bombs. Like, people trust him to keep Israel secure. Some people trust him to keep Israel secure. Or, the left wing, the Labor Party or his opponents haven't provided a vision. It's just like, it's very similar to in America. A lot of people said Biden, he's just saying, don't vote Trump. But what do you stand for? So, but
Biden won, right?
Yes, he did win.
Yeah.
But,
we'll see.
My point is that like, when Trump came in, just comparing the two for a second, I know there's a million things that they don't line up on, meaning Netanyahu and Trump. But when Trump came in, he came in as I'm an outsider. We're going to drain the swamp. We're going to get rid of the elites, even though he is an elite. But forget that for the second. He was going to get all those people and get rid of the elites. But then that worked the first time, but it didn't work this time because it didn't ring true because he was in the White House. He was the one in power. So if you're getting rid of the people in power, who are you getting rid of? From what I've read, but I could be wrong, Netanyahu had that same refrain when he started out, and not started out, but 10 years when he came back in 10 years ago. How does he maintain that when he's the one already in? Is it because he's tough on the other countries around the Middle East?
Yeah, I don't even know. I mean, he was prime minister for, I think, 3 years in the 90s and then like 11 years now. I don't remember the 90s.
Yeah.
I remember the 90s, but I don't know why he was elected then.
Yeah.
But, now it's, a lot of people, it's like everywhere in the world, people are divided and people vote emotionally.
Yeah.
And, he incites and he uses fear tactics and he's always attacking the liberal media hates me, but it's just that, I have a joke about it in my act, like how, some people are like, there's nobody else. Like, it's just what a ridiculous statement that is. Like, Israelis
will like 10 other parties.
Yeah, like Israelis vote for the same person over and over and over again. But if they go and have like bad hummus, they will never like give it a second chance. Yeah. But it's just like, as an American, it drives me nuts. Like, give someone a chance. But then I try to imagine like Israeli, like this is, the Middle East is different. That's what like the West doesn't understand. Like if my family were like, if I had family members who were blown up on buses or died in wars, like it's scary and people are scarred. And, maybe the status quo they think the status quo is better, or those are some answers.
Yeah.
But,
okay.
there needs to be, it's, yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to keep cutting you off, by the way.
No.
Keep going. Okay, cool. This is super interesting to me. So back to Gantz. let's see. So why would he make that deal to give up the first 18 months or Gantz? Sorry. Why would he give up the first 18 months?
It's interesting. Everybody, everyone's English speakers say Gantz, and only after like a year of this politics, when my crappy Hebrew kicked in, I'm like, wait a second, there's no ass sound in Hebrew. It must be Gantz. But I read English newspapers where it looks like Gantz. So I sort of stopped paying attention. I feel like when you're an immigrant, from China, I feel like I'm responsible for following like the politics of pop culture of two countries. Like I get screamed at if I haven't watched every show from every country. So I sort of have paid more attention to America since 2016, but people knew, Bibi, Bibi is so good at politics. Like he just, I don't know the details of how he does it, but, he's basically never groomed a successor. Anyone who's sort of gotten close to him in his party, he topples or cuts their legs out from under them. So people are like, Gantz has no chance. When it's all about, alliances and this and that.
Even when he made the deal, kind of everyone knew it wasn't going to work out.
Yeah, people are like, Bibi's a snake. He's never going to keep his word. And, either he's going to, I'm not following the details, but for months, there's been a question about the budget. Like, I think we still haven't passed the budget for 2020, which is now over.
Which is why we're having this election, we should say, right? Is that the
so Bibi, people are suffering, economically, and he pulled strings and didn't, presumably didn't pass this budget, so the coalition would fall, and he'd have to go to elections again. Like every election costs billions of shekels. It's a lot of money. So people are like, Bibi's never going to keep his word. I guess you could, like, we were so naive in 2015 or 2016. Like, how can Trump get away with this? Like, it's ridiculous. I thought, well, how is Bibi not going to keep his word? Like, isn't it like in writing and stuff? Like, my friends are like, no, he's never going to do that.
Has it happened before in Israel history where prime ministers, have they ever had a deal like this before and someone's kept
There
it?
was a rotation in the 80s with Yitzhak Rabin, Yitzhak Shamir, I think.
Okay.
But
yeah.
So Gantz, like his supporters, people I talked to, they're like, I asked, like, didn't he do a noble thing? Like he thought he was doing something for the good of the country. And they're like, no, like he promised us he should never have joined the coalition. And I guess because he looks like a sucker, which is like the worst thing in Israeli society. Like,
oh yeah,
there's a word friar. I think it comes from German. Like you don't look like a sucker. Gantz is like, he just got like so outfoxed that his political career is over. Like people are leaving his party for other parties. And
wait, so is he over? He's over because he got outfoxed. So people don't feel bad for him. My next question was going to be like, where are his supporters? Wouldn't they feel like there'd be revolution if there was some deal made between Biden and say Trump, and then one of them didn't live up to it? The other side would be going absolutely apeshit. So instead of doing that, has his supporters just been like, oh, he's an idiot for even taking that deal, and then left them?
Yeah, the thing is, it's also not like, the election cycle is so short here.
Yeah.
In the States, it's like 2 years, which is crazy. But it's not like he has huge supporters. Like the parties, his party sprung up overnight. Like now there are new parties for this next election, which is another thing that's so annoying.
And sorry.
Yeah.
I was just going to say,
it's just that, it's not like anyone loved him. He was just, he just symbolized, it could have been anyone running against Netanyahu. It's not like, these people who are like bleeding, I guess like Biden.
Yeah.
Like how many people bleed Biden blue? No, they're just like, he's the guy that we hope wins.
And I was going to say, Gantz, correct me if I'm wrong, but he wasn't really ideological liberal or anything. He was even more right of center. He was just not Netanyahu. So his supporters, they've seen that he got played by Netanyahu, which means he could get played by, Iran or the Palestinians or anybody. So it's like, why would I even want this guy as I could totally see the logic of bailing on him right now and finding a different guy in the center or gal who's, not Netanyahu. That would make sense to me.
Yeah. I don't know enough about like how foreign diplomacy works, but
yeah,
I just think there's gotta be, there should be term limitations. Come on, like, the same guy for so long, it's just not healthy.
No.
Well, I want to get to term limitations, but first, Kaplan, Magic Spoon.
Good segue.
We got cereal to promote, Kaplan. This is okay. So we've been talking about this for a few weeks now. Magic Spoon is the official sponsor of the Lost in America podcast. We've been doing this show for 4 years, Benji. This is our first paying sponsor we've ever had.
Sponsor.
Yeah. So we're very excited. We had this is our third week promoting Magic Spoon. So many of our listeners bought Magic Spoon our first week that they ordered a bunch more ads. So thank you, everyone. If you want to get Magic Spoon, the cereal we're talking about, go to magicspoon.com/lost. Magic Spoon is here. Well, let's say how we found. How are your kids? So Benji, what Magic Spoon is? It's cereal that has all the flavors you had as a kid. It's cocoa, it's fruity, it's frosted,
sugary.
It's blueberry. It's that sugary cereal that you had we all had when we were kids, except for there's 0 sugar, 11 grams of protein, 3 net grams of carbs.
Yeah. It's my kids love it. They're addicted. I gave them, they're back at school today. First day back. They don't have, the lunches are disgusting this year because of the situation. So I packed them a snack. I said, you know what I'm packing you guys? Some Magic Spoon. And Teddy said, give me the fruity one. He doesn't know because we don't speak about terrestrial cereals.
I'm going to have to, they said we can't mention that, Kaplan. So I'm going to have to go back and edit out what you just said.
Oh, it's fine. But they don't know fruity. He said, give me the fruity one. He loves that one. I gave Ruby the chocolate one, the cocoa one. She said it's delicious. She gave me big thumbs up. She said, they're loving it. It's like a real snack. And it's, of course, a breakfast. You can have it it's a meal replacement. You can have it any time of day. And
it's keto friendly, it's gluten free, grain free, soy free, low carb, and GMO free. And Kaplan, what else?
I wanted to add for our Israeli listeners and watchers on YouTube. It's got a big UO there. It's kosher dairy. So this is a meal you can give. You can bring it to they're going to Hebrew school. I'm gonna pack it as a snack to Hebrew school. I won't get in trouble with the rabbi. And it's delicious. It's grain free. They have a ton of flavors, and you can check them all out. Yeah,
I got it. So I was just visiting my brother in Virginia, and I took some down there because I wanted to get his kids hooked on it so that he would start buying. Because he unsubscribed from our Patreon show.
I mean, this is how you can make up for it, though. If you haven't unsubscribed for Patreon, you buy Magic Spoon through our promo code.
Buy Magic. He was sick of what he says lies we were spreading about him. We're telling the truth. But anyway, so I got it for his kids. They loved it. They ate it for breakfast. They ate the blueberry. They loved the blueberry, ate it for breakfast, and then also took it with them as they put it into a Ziploc and took it as a snack around the day to take with them around the day. Magicspoon.com/lost. Cap, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's in these times, when you're out and about with your kids, you don't want to be running in because of the coronavirus. You don't be running into places to buy snacks. You bring snacks with you. Bring Magic Spoon, put it in a Ziploc. It's delicious. It's healthy. You're going to raise not fat slob kids. You're going to raise thin kids this way. Very important. They're not going to, it's just the way you want to live. You want to live healthy with keto.
Buy your first box of Magic Spoon because you love us, because you support the show. Buy the second box for you. That's what we always say.
Buy the third because you love your heart.
Yeah, you won't have a heart attack like Kaplan did.
Pre-Magic Spoon, I had one. Since I started eating this, I've had 0 heart attacks.
Zero heart attacks in the last 3 weeks.
And I went skiing, which is when I had a heart attack last time. And I brought Magic Spoon with me, and it saved my life.
So magicspoon.com/lost for Lost in America. Lost, and be sure to use our promo code LOST at checkout to get free shipping now. Term limits. So why don't they have term limits?
Wait, now a word for our local sponsor, you forgot to say.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Now a word from your local sponsor. All right, we're back. Now,
I
Benji,
Googled Magic Spoon. I'd never heard of it. Can you see this? You probably not.
Oh,
People
yeah.
also ask, is Magic Spoon actually good? You see that?
Well, I hope
I'm
the
going to
answer
say
is
yes, it is.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Look at that. They love it even in Israel.
Does Magic Spoon, hold on. Does Magic Spoon cereal cause gas? Should
No.
we reveal the answer?
The
Never.
answer, absolutely not.
No, it does
Right.
not.
Boom.
Ding,
Look at that.
ding, ding.
Google.
We're killing it with Magic Spoon here. Okay, so so back to the term limit. So are people saying there should be, or what's the deal with that?
I am. I mean, I don't know. I mean, first of all, like the funny thing is, and again, like I'm sure you've had this similar experience in China. Like when you immigrate, your first inclination, I'm losing my English, is to like compare and criticize, and this is so weird. And then at some point, it hit me like, maybe America is the outlier or the weird one. So I need like a third country to compare to. So, are term limitations normal? I don't know. But like Germany, I think also does not have, because like, hasn't Angela Merkel been chancellor for 12 years or something like that?
Yeah, but
So,
they don't want to risk it. They've had some problems in the past with elections, so they got to stick with her.
She's been around
She's
a
great.
while.
Everyone loves her.
You just violated my safe space when you said that. So, one of the big challenges for this next election, and I wouldn't even know what he looked like if he walked in here, but a former, maybe the number 2 guy in the Likud party, his name is Gidon Saar.
Yes.
And he just like broke off. Oh, you guys did your research. So he just broke off and he started a new party. And I think he or someone said like, we need term limitations. So I guess it's on somebody's radar.
His new party is called A New Hope, which I like. It's got like a Star Wars.
I'm always
ridiculous.
cautious. I'm always cautious when they name it something too good, Yeah. Like when I was in high school, Benji, I wanted to register. Like when I was 18, I was going to go register to vote. And I said, I'm an independent. And so I registered. There was an American Independent Party.
Oh,
so I joined. I'm like, oh, that's me.
I know where this is going.
I joined the American Independent Party. I got home. My mom was like, Turner, you just joined the Nazi Party. The Nazi Party of America is called the American Independent Party. So then it took like 3 more months to change it. Now I can never run for office.
You're like canceled now.
At one point I was a Nazi for 3 months in high school. So I don't like this New Hope. I don't like anything.
That's right. Who was not a Nazi for 3 months in high school? Let's be honest. We all had our stages.
Everybody.
Some people kiss, same-sex experimentation. Some people are Nazis.
I will also say what
Turner.
you can hear more of on our Patreon show. I accidentally was the leader of precursor to Antifa in high school as well.
Were you an anti-fascist while you were a fascist at the same time?
I think I was actually. I was all over the board. So what is going on with the next election?
It's A New Hope.
Is Netanyahu for sure going to win it? No, absolutely not. He barely won the last few times. No, he's definitely, he seems to have 9 lives. You can never count him out, but he's not definitely going to win it.
Do people think do people think like it's going to be different? Because we've had 3 elections where like nothing was accomplished, it seems. Like you couldn't get a majority enough to make a real coalition. Do people think this time is going to be different for some reason, or is it just?
Nobody knows. What drives me crazy is that there's this so I guess once upon a time, these parties really had like different ideological stances. Like this one was the left-wing party, this one was the right-wing party. And now it just has become these personality-driven, this is the BB party. This is like in America, this is
Trump party.
It's like all these, we also need more women. It seems like guys, it seems like the men have other chances. These, former generals with big egos, like stop starting parties every 5 seconds. Just like,
well, I did think
gold of my year. Do you have a gold of my year junior in the ranks? No.
I asked people like, how did a woman, it is crazy. Like in the machismo Middle East, like how did a woman get elected prime minister when America's never had a woman? And the answer is always like, well, she was very manly. She was like,
yeah.
So
she was pretty tough.
In the past, I just want to get this straight. So, and Cap, you might know this too. When no one has the majority and they can't form a coalition, does that mean that the current government just continues? Is that the way it works?
Well, during that time, the government, you go to another election. In the time of the negotiation, I guess the government keeps functioning, I guess. But
that's why they've had the 4. That's why they just keep going and going and going.
Yeah, we had a government this last time for a year or so, but it's toppling. But maybe a few years ago they made a change. They thought maybe if they raised the threshold of the number of votes you need to enter the Knesset, the parliament, that'll get rid of some of the little parties and will stop the fracturing. But clearly it hasn't worked. I don't know. It just
And what's up with the criminal charges? Is the deal
what's graft really? What's graft anyway?
Well, yeah.
Well, as long as he's in power, can he not be charged? Is that the deal?
Well, he's also been. That's why he's been. I don't want to say Trump-like.
Netanyahu, I guess we're talking about here.
Yeah, he's got.
Yeah, that's why he's corruption. Been. He's been out for himself because he wants to reduce the power of the Supreme Court, or he wants to put in judges who will give him immunity, or he wants to pass, he's hoping to pass some kind of law that if he's in power, he'll be granted immunity, which obviously is a conflict of interest. So, I mean, I think before the last election, there was a lot of people saying, like, whether you're guilty or not, like, step down. It's too much of a distraction. You can't be running a country when you're also fighting a court case, whatever.
Yeah, I saw that somebody bought him like $260,000 worth of like jewelry for his wife and cigars. And this is like a crazy corruption case of just like bribery to get, so, but it's the attorney general he's in charge of. Is that how, like, so he can just, as long as he's in charge, he can stay out of it?
I mean, I'm not really sure. I mean, look, now, like, a lot of people are saying, like, he gets credit, I think, for these peace agreements or normalization agreements with the UAE and Bahrain and Sudan. I mean, that's historic.
We did a podcast about the UAE agreement that we should. Yeah. How are those going?
I mean, that's historic. So a lot of people are saying, look, who cares if he accepts, a box of cigars, but it's a slippery slope. If you're like, a corrupt or undemocratic or a douchebag, like, there are consequences.
So the game plan for him seems like just stay in office indefinitely.
That's what it just seems like. For several years, he just seems to care more about himself than anything else. So, yeah.
I mean, as long as Ariel Sharon was in office for a while and then he got a coma and then he was, maybe that's Netanyahu's just going to stay till the end. He's just, right. And
is there any, Trump versus Biden, is any one of them better or worse in the eyes of Israel?
Look, so Israel is like I think Trump has the most favorable ratings here. Ratings is a weird word. He's most favorably looked upon here, I think, more than anywhere in the world, because Israel, what do Israel? I mean, I don't think this should be the case, but Israelis are like, they're one issue people.
Sure.
They think that he is, is better for Israel. I had a Facebook status like 4 years ago before he was elected. I feel like it's what was it? It's like some Israelis could see like a meteor plummeting towards Earth, and they would vote for the meteor if they thought he was good for Israel or something like that.
Yes.
It's like renting a first class room on the Titanic. It's like, okay, you've got a nice room, but like, you're all gonna suffer eventually. Like,
Yeah, no, the Iran deal happened, and Netanyahu really stood up to Obama. So is that kind of tied in where like Netanyahu is seen as like, he'll stand up to the American presidents who are seen as not as
some
good for
people
Israel,
think that.
so
Some people think, and look, I'm torn. Like, I think like, oh God, just don't piss off America. But on the other hand, like, I actually did not vote in the Obama elections. I thought, well, I'm not living there, I shouldn't vote. I would have voted for him, but I also thought, like, as did a lot of people, like, he's a sucker, the word I used before, a friar. Like, talk about not knowing how to negotiate with, like, in the Middle East, Iranians, like, people think, Obama got conned. I mean, like, they're not keeping their word.
Of course. Yeah.
So, it's like, what do you do? Like, on one hand, like, I want Obama, I want Netanyahu to play nicely with Obama and don't, that's the ultimate chutzpah to go into the Congress and, disagree with the U.S. president. But on the other hand, chutzpah is often
successful,
a good thing. I mean, Iran, there's headlines that all the top headlines here now are about Iran enriching uranium. It's not good.
It's just a totally different, as you said, it's a totally different case when you're living in the middle of it, as opposed to us in the United States, when Iran's an ocean away. You
could be a very liberal person, but you're still thinking about your security because and that could be way more important than what the marriage policy or anything else is, tax policy or.
Do the New Hope and then Gantz and then Netanyahu differ politically, or are they pretty similar except for the fact that the other two just want to get rid of Netanyahu?
Gantz and people said Gantz and Netanyahu their parties were not so different. I mean, talk about chutzpah. If your listeners don't know what that means, it's like audacity.
I have been saying, I should say that I've gotten a ton of feedback from listeners that say Kaplan's teaching them a lot of new words.
I assume they know chutzpah. I feel like that's like one of our more mainstream Jewish words, but maybe they don't.
I don't know. There's a lot of.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back. I got to go back and listen to some of your previous episodes.
Chutzpah.
But yeah, so this is chutzpah. Like the Likud party, if you go, I haven't been to their website recently, but if you went to their website, they didn't even publish a platform. Like that is chutzpah. Like they basically don't give a
Netanyahu's
I don't know if we
party.
can curse here. Yeah, they don't give a damn about voters. But
No platform.
I mean, look, like the problem is it's just that, whether you're left wing or not, like it's not healthy to not have a strong opposition. The left wing is dead right now, and not that there are no left wing voters, but the leadership is in shambles. And
so New Hope
Gantz,
and Netanyahu are all either center or right, center to right wing. Netanyahu has his platform is just me. Just vote for me.
Just vote for me. He's like Trump. It's very Trump-like. Like, just vote
I don't
for
know
me.
if Trump had a platform.
Because the Republican Party didn't have a platform this election, so it
sounds very similar in that sense.
But what
I don't even know what his. I mean, but there's also no debates here, which is annoying. Like, there's no debates where you can actually hear what they stand for, which is extremely annoying.
Just ads, just attack ads. Like,
what do they have? What is an election cycle like?
It's very short. It's and now I feel like a dumb immigrant. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's just in America. It's 50 elections. So they're traveling around the campaigns. Here, there's just one district.
Yeah,
there's one tiny state. You also didn't mention there's a party. There's a couple of politicians. Naftali Bennett is the head of the Yamina party, which is a strong opposition. There's Yair Lapid, who.
That's who my brother's voting for, I believe. I'm allowed to say his endorsement. He lives in Israel. He voted for Biden too, so he didn't do what you did. He double dips.
Oh, big get. Stephen Kaplan,
Stephen Kaplan endorsement. Lapid. Is that someone on the left? I assume, right?
Lapid. He's I don't know, center left.
Yeah,
maybe.
Big get.
I voted I voted in the last two elections. There's the new the Tel Aviv mayor 76. He's been mayor for 22 years now. Like, shut the hell. Like, retire.
Right.
So
we really need women.
There's no women?
Not really.
Is there during the elections, are there commercials on TV?
Yes, but I don't watch them because I'm a dumb immigrant.
Okay. Are there but they don't give speeches. Oh, they don't have debates.
Right.
Yeah. It's interesting. And then it's probably only a month or a few weeks or something.
Yeah, it's a couple months. It's very quick. Yeah.
Is it personally funded? Do either one of you guys know? Or like, cause I hear it's like if you have the most money, typically pre-Trump, if you had the most money, you usually won. Right. I
assume Netanyahu's getting money from people. Just guessing though. Yeah. What are the rules?
I don't know much about that. Money's not as big of a thing here.
It's not as big of a deal.
How
is Lieberman still is that he's like very nationalist?
Yeah. Avigdor Lieberman. So he was sort of a hero of the second election a couple of years ago because so Bibi is pissed off every former ally. Like Lieberman used to be an ally of him. He one of them turned their they had a falling out. Whoever turned his back on the other one. Naftali Bennett used to be a right-hand man of Netanyahu. So Lieberman could have gone into the coalition, and at the last minute he spurned Netanyahu. So he became like a hero for not. But did he do it for ideological reasons, or was it because he wants to be prime minister someday? I don't know.
Yeah, it's such a fascinating thing. There's all these conservative-leaning people who then don't want to be basically allies with Netanyahu anymore, and yet
it could be a preview of what we get. I mean, Mitt Romney's the first one to turn on Trump. Well, he was never really with Trump, but it could once it's not politically advantageous anymore. That could start happening here, if it does one day not become not politically advantageous. Do you see any world where Netanyahu leaves 2 months from now if he loses?
Leaves what?
Leaves office.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's not Trump.
He's not going to contest the election and hold rallies.
I mean, he's not, he...
Voter fraud.
He could be a pain in the butt, but he's not insane.
Okay, yeah. All right, that's good to know.
That's good to know.
And what about the... Yeah, go ahead, Cap.
No, I was going to say, what about with the, because we're trying to figure out, why will this be different? So there's these peace deals, which you mentioned. And then there's the whole coronavirus situation where Israel now is having this incredible vaccination at least in America, we're getting all this press about how great you guys are doing the vaccination.
Oh yeah. You guys are really showing us up.
You're really making everybody
we've been told
possibly hate you more.
Sadly, the world is showing America, but
but so is that going to help him? Because it shows how competent the government is in a way, or
no? I try to do some research. I mean, he seems to have handled the pandemic awfully. I mean, the reason for the vaccinations is we have great socialized medicine and very efficient health, HMOs. and technology like, you just get a text message from your HMO telling you to go down and get vaccinated. It's just very efficient, but he doesn't get credit for that. I mean, I sort of figured it's the same thing here as in the States. It's just about turnout. It's about who shows up to vote. And he could definitely lose. No question.
Is turnout typically pretty high? Percentage?
I think it's in the 60s, 60.
That's pretty good.
Percent. You know what sucks about in America? Here, I don't know how it is in other countries. It's a day off here. It's a national day off to go in. So there's no reason not to vote.
Not here.
No, not here.
I wish it worked in America.
We like to work. We're a working country. It's stupid. Makes no sense. What about the comedy? Can I ask you comedy questions?
I don't want to talk about. Yes, please.
You're like,
He's like, enough questions about. So I was going to ask about Netanyahu's tax. No, go on.
So as an American, obviously shows are in English and I guess Hebrew.
I've done in Hebrew maybe 10 times, like open mics and stuff. But
the scene's
English.
still pretty good in English, yeah?
Yeah, it is really growing. I mean, we had in the last few years, like Jim Jeffries, Chris Rock, Seinfeld, Louis C.K. So many people performed here. Yeah, the English scene is really growing.
I mean, young Israelis all speak English, right? I mean, so.
Yeah, I mean, Netflix, English is, it's the language of the world now.
And then when you guys tour regionally, where do you go? What are the stops outside of Israel?
Well, I really perform in Israel and in the States, and other English. I mean, I do stuff. It's sort of like a niche audience. Like I perform for Jewish audiences and Jewish organizations. So, my stuff's all about being like an expat here and the immigrant experience.
Cool.
Fortunately, there's a lot of English speakers here. There's, nonstop tourists.
Yeah, you might not
Jewish,
have to.
Non-Jewish. Yeah.
That question, by the way, just came from my part of the brain that when I was performing in China for years, you had to, it was like if you wanted to do a month of touring a year, you had to be in like 9 different countries. You could do like Ho Chi Minh City, Hanoi, the big city in every country was one show, one night.
Wow.
And then you had to go to Bangkok and then you had to go wherever. But I forget that in Israel, you could probably just tour around Israel.
I mean, are Israelis going to the Middle East, to these countries that there's peace deals in now? Or have you heard of?
Oh my God. I mean, so like last month, like 100,000 people were in Dubai. Like everybody was going.
Whoa.
To Dubai.
That's going.
How's that going? Are they well received?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Dubai, it's like apparently there's no Arabs there. I mean, not that, all Arabs and Israelis don't like each other, but it's all like Brits and Filipinos, and apparently it's a weird country like the Emirates. There's like, it's mostly expats, but
we should do a pod there.
And didn't Morocco just open or recognize Israel?
Is it official? Yeah, there's, I don't know if it's been signed yet, but yeah, it's, there was some kind of agreements already, but this is more official.
Is Jared Kushner getting all the credit like he is here for these things?
He's not getting the credit, but he should be, right? I mean, it's actually one thing he's done. It's the only accomplishment he's had.
I asked a friend of mine because there's no way, the thing is these deals there's been like hush cooperation and collaboration with these countries for decades. A friend of mine told me, why is Kushner getting credit? Because it's not that he really did anything, but he didn't get in the way. Yeah. Like if Biden or Obama were in charge, they would have tried to tie these agreements more to progress with the Palestinians, and the Trump administration is just like, we just want something on our record. So just like, it's transactional, like take this, we'll do this, just sign it. We don't care.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Palestinians, one thing we didn't mention is that there's Israeli Arabs vote, and it's about 20% of the population. Right. And so there's like it's called the joint list. It's like all the Arab parties. So
right. So I said a few years ago, they raised the threshold of, so I think Avigdor Lieberman, who you mentioned, who's nationalist, I think he was behind the effort to raise the threshold in hopes that maybe some of the Arab parties wouldn't get into the parliament. But what they did was that the 3 Arab parties combined into the joint list, and now they have more power, which is great.
And is there any chance that would anybody ever form a coalition? This is like peace dream world, I guess, of like an Israeli party forming a coalition with an Arab party.
It hasn't happened yet, but it's going to happen.
Yeah, that's because maybe these deals help that make it a little more, or maybe not.
Yeah,
maybe
it's stupid. It's I don't know. This is the dumbest analogy ever, but like I don't know, like gay marriage. Like there's so much about optics. Like Obama wasn't for it until it was palatable. It's just
right. Once it's palatable,
I don't know. Like maybe no one wants to be the first one, or they're afraid that they're, if they align themselves with an Arab party, then they're not, another right-wing party is not going to want to sit with them in the coalition. It's stupid. Somebody will do it.
Yeah.
There was talks about it this last time.
Great. Cool, man. Well, thank you so much for doing the podcast. Thank you for sitting through our questions. And by the way, we should have said this in advance, but if 40% of this is accurate and 60% is half accurate, that's better than any of our listeners are getting anywhere else. So
it's like I'm the smartest kid in the class for getting a 40. Like,
exactly.
Wow.
Speaking of smart words, I did mention I taught Turner off air the word aliyah, which is what you made, right? When you moved So congrats on that. I wanted to know, is there a way to do a turbo aliyah program for my family to get my parents to get the vaccine?
Well, Cap, explain to our listeners what an aliyah is. Not the singer Aliyah.
Yeah, no. When aliyah, when America or someone from non-Israel who's Jewish moves to Israel, it's like express to become a citizen. You can become quickly a citizen if they help you with the job and housing, correct? In the beginning, and that's what my brother did.
Yeah, for a Jewish person to immigrate to Israel, it's called aliyah, which is it means like literally going up, like as if you're spiritually going up, and you get different benefits. It's a very immigrant friendly country.
But I'd like to send my parents there. They have a granddaughter in Israel and everything. I'd like to get them the vaccine because I don't think they're ever going to get it in America. So I want to know if you have any connections that I can send them right now, and let me know off air.
If I can only figure out how to get them on a plane with sick people over the other side of the world. Yeah.
I was trying to convince my parents to commit a crime because prisoners get it very quickly here in America.
Or become homeless. That's who.
Or become homeless or gain 300 pounds. Yeah, the obese get it quickly too.
Yeah. Anyway,
so there's a lot of avenues, Kaplan. They don't
have to move to Israel. Okay.
Not necessarily. Yeah,
right.
It could help. Benji Lovett, thank you so much. How can people find you? How can our listeners follow you?
I have a website, benjilovett.com, or look me up on all the social media outlets. So I didn't feel nearly as dumb as I feared I might. So thanks for you guys are smart. This is like the most intelligent comedy podcast ever.
Thank you.
That's a great blurb. We should use that. The most intelligent comedy podcast ever.
Yeah, from two idiots, by the way. So how's that happen? And it's Lovitt.
I think I should really check this. I've been telling people, just Google Benji Comedy Israel. I should probably Google that to make sure I still come up at the top, but I'm easy to find.
No, but that's a good thing to say.
Yeah.
It sounds good. Just Benji Comedy Israel. I'll be at the top.
Awesome. You guys were fun. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much,
and, Magic Spoon, eat it.
Yes.
Magic Spoon, everybody. Yes.
Oh, Kaplan, hold it up. Hold it up and talk.
Magic Spoon. It's kosher. Get it.
No, you get it in the frame. You got to move it over a little bit. There we go.
All right. Now I can't see me, but yeah, Magic Spoon. It's great.
There we go. That's it. Thank you, Benji. Kaplan. Everybody go to patreon.com/LostInAmerica. Join the gang. Cap, what should we do?
It's time. I got to go pick up my kids from Hebrew school, actually. So I'm going to get lost.
Get lost.